Scott County Public Library with another edition of Bookends. I'm here with my friend Lauren. Yay! And we've got our special Valentine's Day romance show. And we've got lots and lots of romances at the Scott County Public Library.
Lots of them.
Lots of them. And I've rated mine here with these ones starting here are more romantic and less steamy, and they go all the way up the scale to positively you are going to need your fan. So keep that in mind. My favorite book today, or my first book today, is called Hope's Highest Mountain. It's by Misty M. Beller. And it's about, it takes place in the Old West. So Ingrid Chastain and her physician father were heading to a mining town in Montana Territory to deliver a badly needed supply of vaccines. It's smallpox vaccine. And the unthinkable happens, their wagon crashes, and everybody in the party except Ingrid and her small dog dies.
Oh.
But there's hope. Even in this adventurous tale, there is a handsome mountain man. Of course. His name is Micah Bradley, and he was a former doctor, but he's given all that up because of the death of his wife and young child due to a disease, and he couldn't save them. So he's decided he's going to just be a mountain man. But he finds her in the snow with her little dog, and he saves her life. And they decide that together they're going to deliver the vaccine. Aww. So they've got, it's an adventure story and it's a romance. And if you like them just on the gentle and romantic side, you will really like this one. And in the end, you'll answer the question, is God bringing them together for a very special purpose? It's all in this book. All right. And my absolute favorite of this whole bunch is my second book. It's called The Belle of Belgrave Square by Mimi Matthews. And it's got a horse on the cover.
Yay!
You can't get any better than that. So it drew my attention right away.
Right.
And it's about a very bookish, I think this is why they call her Belle, because it reminds everybody of the Beauty and the Beast. But she just wants to be left alone to read her novels.
I mean, yeah.
She spent her sheltered life in her parents' London house. They're a quite wealthy family, and so she's got a large dowry, right? But her parents are kind of invalids, so they've kept her at home and shelter her, and she goes out to society events with her chaperone. And enter, handsome, dashing, but broody and morose.
Of course.
Captain Jasper Blunt. He was a war hero, great war hero, but he has a cruel reputation that precedes him. And he's looking for a rich heiress to provide badly needed funds to restore his Yorkshire manor house. And he fixes upon this young woman, Julia, as the solution to his dilemma. So is everything the way that it appears at first? Is he really so cruel? Is he a mean guy? Or is he a good guy? You're just going to have to read the book to find out. But this is my favorite one because it's got plot twists. It's got great characterization. So you're going to have to read that. The Belle of Belgrave Square.
To bring that up my TBR.
Yes, you must. You must. My favorite. I'm going to read it again. That's how much.
That's high praise.
It's high praise. Next, I picked a book full of short stories about love. It's called Love in Color: Mythical Tales from Around the World Retold by Bolu Babalola. And it's a vibrant collection of short stories that retell myths, folktales, and histories from around the world, but it focuses mainly on the magical folktales of West Africa. And she also adds new light to ancient legends from Greece and the Middle East. So it's a celebration of romance in all its many splendid forms. Plus, if you only have a little time to read, you can read a story a day.
I love that.
Yeah, that's why I really like books of short stories. So definitely check this one out. My next book is Lucy Yi is Not a Romantic by Lauren Ho. Lucy Yi is a very successful consultant, but she's tired of waiting for Mr. Right, and she feels like her biological clock is ticking. So she decides she's going to have a baby right now without the help of Mr. Right. So she signs up for an elective co-parenting website to find a suitable parenting partner without the intention of even, I guess, getting married. But definitely not a romantic partner. She's not going to find her. She just wants a baby and to share parenting duties with somebody. So she meets Colin Reed, and he fits the bill. He shares a similar ethnic background and cultural background. He seems like a great guy, and he's ready to be a father. So what could go wrong, right? But problems arise when they journey to Singapore to visit Lucy's very conservative parents who don't like the idea of her not being married and co-parenting. And then her ex-fiancé appears and throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing. So how can Lucy live up to everybody's expectations of her and still end up with the life that she wants? And is there going to be romance in her life after all when she least expects it? You're going to have to read the book to find out. Next on my list is called Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is one of the fake dating. There's a certain trope in romance novels where people fake date, and then of course usually in the end they end up getting together anyways.
Right.
And so that's one of my favorites. This one's called Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and it's about a young man named Luke O'Donnell. He can't do anything right. He is the son of two aging former rock stars, one of whom his mother has become a recluse, but his father is trying to get his name back in the press by doing things like in this book it's sort of the version of America's Got Talent,
right,
or one of those shows. So he's on a reality show, the dad is, and so this kid has kind of grown up having his face plastered all over tabloids all the time,
right,
and he always seems to be photographed at his worst possible moments.
No.
So his job at an obscure nonprofit organization is in jeopardy due to his latest accidental tabloid magazine photograph. And his employer wants him to settle down and meet a nice young man and date. So he has to change his image, in other words. So Oliver Blackwood is a nice, normal guy. He's a barrister, which over in England is a form of lawyer. He's very clean cut, has never had a scandal. And he needs a date for his big event that's going to be happening. So these two guys team up to fake date each other as a way to solve their problems. But they have that chemistry, even though they're kind of like an odd couple, because the one is just really straight-laced and like clean, and the other one is kind of rumpled and always making a mess and things like that. But are they falling for each other? Do they end up together? You're going to have to read the book to find out. All right. Then we have The Right Swipe by Alicia Ray. Things are really starting to steam up in my books here. So, Rhiannon Hunter, has created the ultimate dating app, but this successful digital whiz is still single. She only swipes right on her career and an occasional hookup. So her latest match, sexy former pro football player Samson Lima, might just change her game plan. Unfortunately, he disappears after their one-night fling, and then 3 months later appears in league with a business rival. He's open to giving their relationship a second chance, but she's not sure she's made for more permanent commitment. So this is all about their kind of back and forth, And is he just dating her because he wants her business secrets, or is he dating her because there's something really more to it? Definitely very exciting and steamy read. And my last book today is called The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. And it's about a woman who's helping out her wedding planner cousin when she stumbles into a situation that convinces her that the soon-to-be wed couple are not really meant for each other. And so she decides she's going to stop them from getting married by crashing the wedding. And so she destroys this guy's marriage of convenience. He gets snipped before the nuptials. And unfortunately, that means that this guy is not going to get his big promotion that he was supposed to get. So, in a panic, he declares that he's actually in love with the woman that crashed the party. And so she feels sorry for ruining his life, and she agrees to fake date him. And the fake date leads to a real attraction. But they're polar opposites, kind of like these guys here. Can this fake romance turn into the real thing? Well, you'll have to read the book to find out. And, of course, we've got lots and lots and lots of just paperback, like Harlequin romances. So we've got tons of them. Come and check them out at the Scott County Public Library.
Something for everybody.
There is something for everybody here.
All right. I don't know if mine go in terms of steam, but I did kind of separate them out by kind of focusing on, not quite focusing on the relationship as much as kind of like an individual self-awareness. So in Something Wilder by Christina Lauren, which is a pair of friends who write together, and all of their work is fantastic. We have Lily Wilder, whose father, Duke, was a famous treasure hunter. And she grew up, following him and solving puzzles and clues with him. And, as she goes, she gets a little older, she meets Leo, who has come to their little ranch for kind of like a summer of work, just to kind of get experience. And they fall in love. But at the end of the summer, Leo, who is the kind of primary man in his family's life, so he's a mom and a sister, he gets bad news from his mom and kind of leaves almost without any explanation. So they try to make long distance work and it doesn't work. And so they basically just never talk to each other again after a certain point. So then fast forward a couple years, and Lily's father has passed away and left her pretty much destitute. She is barely able to, she has actually had to sell the ranch. So she is kind of on the last leg of being able to save it. So she's leading tours with her friend as kind of like a little tourist attraction into the desert to search for the treasure that her dad was absolutely positive was there. She's pretty cynical at this point. She doesn't really think it's there because surely by now they would have found it. And so lo and behold, Leo's friend is getting married, and as the bachelor party, they come to Lily's establishment to go on a treasure hunt. And so it's very much kind of a second chance romance, but it almost takes a backseat to the adventure because there are so many shenanigans and hijinks and just bad things happening one right after another, and it becomes clear that someone is sabotaging their tour, and you kind of find out there's a lot of like plot twists and everything, so I won't say anything else, but it's very much kind of there's a moment where Lily and Leo have to kind of go out into the desert on their own to find things, to find some more clues, and it's very much kind of like a reckoning of what happened in our past and just kind of like realizing that it was a misunderstanding, and there's very much still an attraction between them. So,
that's cool. And I love plot twists.
Oh yes, this one has quite a few. So there are definitely some spots where I would kind of laugh out loud because Christina Lauren, they always manage to just inject so much humor into their writing. So I highly recommend this, especially if you're wanting something that maybe isn't quite as heavy on the romance and is a little bit more adventure-y. Something Wilder is a great place to kind of get lost into another story. Similarly, The Recovery Agent by Janet Ivanovich is another second chance romance. And it's actually kind of very similar, which I'm just now realizing, but we have Gabriella Rose, who is a recovery agent. So basically she goes on adventures around the world. It's very reminiscent of Laura Croft.
Oh, okay.
So she's kind of like, you know, this treasure hunter. She goes and, you know, Laura Croft meets Robin Hood. Like, she'll return things to the rightful owner and kind of claim things for insurance and museum and everything like that. And she gets a call from her parents, and they say, hey, our entire town is about to be basically sold to some billionaire who's going to run everything down and build some sort of condominium type thing. And so she's like, you all have nowhere else to go, because, you know, her family has been there for generations. So she goes to see what she can do. And similar to Something Wilder, her family kind of has this legend of a lost treasure, a lost wealth. So she's like, all right, I will do one last shot to see if I can find this. And wouldn't you know it, her ex-husband Rafer is in town at the same time, and is just like, you know what, I'll tag along because I've got nothing better to do. And so throughout their adventure, she is reminded again and again of why they didn't work, because they are very much opposite. She's a very kind of methodical, step-by-step person, and he's very much a, ooh, what's this button do, you know? So they kind of butt heads a lot on just how we're going to approach this, but as the, you know, the hijinks get going and as more, you know, things are revealed, they start to get close again and remember why they worked in the first place. And like Something Wilder, they were very young when they got together the first time, so I think they both had some growing to do to get to a point where they could realize that what they had in common was more important than what they had in difference. So it's another fun one that's a little bit more adventure than romance, but Janet Ivanovich, of course, has fantastic series and everything. So this was a really fun one to get into.
I'm gonna put both of those on my to-be read list.
Yes, they're really fun, and both they have a lot of humor in them as well. So it's not just, you know, adventure and romance, and it's also kind of like, okay, like it's just very fun. My next one is called Digging Up Love by Chandra Bloomberg. So this one is really fun. She is a plus size heroine. She loves baking and has kind of been pigeonholed into running her grandfather's restaurant, and it's a barbecue place. And she loves it. You know, she grew up there after her parents weren't able to take care of her and her sister, so her grandparents, of course, stepped in. And, you know, she loves it, but she's very much doing it out of a sense of responsibility. Like, she wants to bake. She wants to go and open a bakery in Chicago, and, you know, she feels very trapped. And when her grandparents are digging to put in a pool, they find dinosaur bones in their backyard. So enter our hero, who is Quentin Harris, who is a paleontologist, and, you know, he has recently gone through a really painful kind of breakup and has very much kind of become a shell of himself and is just not present. So then he goes and he's really excited by this find, and he's also kind of stumbles into Alicia and realizes that, you know, maybe there's chance for love in unlikely places. Yeah. So it's a lot of kind of Alicia finding herself and you know, being able to find her voice and recognize that she's kind of walled herself into where she's at without noticing that there may be other options. So that one, it's a really fun, it's really nice and sweet. A lot of, you know, family dynamics. So it's really fun. And of course, if you like dinosaurs like I do, it's just fun to read a romance that kind of centers around finding dinosaurs.
Yeah, I love dinosaurs.
Oh, they're great. And I couldn't talk about romance without including Nora Roberts, because she's pretty much, she's the queen, yeah. So this is actually one of my absolute favorites of hers. It's The Awakening, and it is the story of Breen Kelly, who thinks that her father abandoned her when she was a little girl. And her mother is a very strict, you know, don't stand out, don't, you know, do this, don't do that, like you have to make your own way, all of that. So Breen is, you know, she's 20 something, she has a lot of student debt, she has been, you know, dyeing her brilliant red hair this kind of drabby mouse brown, and she's working as a teacher, and she's miserable, she hates it. And then one day when she's at her mom's house while taking care of her mom's plants while she's away, she finds that her mom has been keeping a secret, which is an investment account in Breen's name worth $4 million or so.
Oh.
Yeah. So she, of course, pays off her student debt, like I think many of us would, and decides she's going to travel to Ireland with her best friend, because that is where her dad is from, and she believes that he has returned to Ireland. So she's hoping to kind of find her dad, and kind of find some family connection, because all she has is her mom, and they obviously don't have a great relationship. So she gets to Ireland, and they've rented this little cottage, and she finds there's a portal into another world.
Oh my gosh.
And finds out that her dad was not in fact from Ireland, but was from this other world, Talith, which is not, I had to listen to the audiobook to learn how to pronounce it, because it is not spelled the way that you would think it would be pronounced. And so of course, you know, in Talith there's magic and fairies and dragons, and her grandmother and her, you know, adopted family from when she was a child, and so then she finds like all sorts of things about herself and her heritage, and of course meets the hero. And this is book one of a trilogy. All 3 books are out, because I'm not about to be like, hey, here's this amazing book, but you have to wait. So the first one is very much kind of a self-discovery novel, and about finding, you know, kind of your own power and kind of deciding what to do with that, because she has the option of walking away, even though she is kind of the key to defeating the great big bad evil. So it's amazing. This is like, when it first came out and I read it, I told my mom it was like the book of my heart.
Aww. Because
she goes to Ireland to be a writer, and I have wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl myself, and who doesn't want to live in Ireland?
Yeah.
So very much a amazing book that I relate to and adore and love, so highly recommend. And of course, Nora Roberts, you can't go wrong. My next book here is by Amy Lee. This is called Set on You. And so we have another plus size heroine who is a fitness influencer on Instagram. It's Crystal Shin, and she's very much kind of, you know, on her account is very, you know, positive, very plus size, you know, just really encourages you to kind of just embrace your size wherever you are, and like you don't have to, you know, starve yourself to be a size 10, just be you. And one day when she is going after a recent breakup, so we've learned breakups are kind of turning points, so a little bit of catalyst. She finally kind of drags herself off the couch and goes to the gym, but in her break from being positive and going to the gym after, you know, recovering from this breakup, she finds out that there's a new gym member who is using her favorite machine. And she is just livid. She has a routine and she needs that machine, and she's just like, I have to film this, get out of my way.
Oh my gosh.
It's just very frustrating for her. So our hero is Scott Ritchie, who's a firefighter, so automatic swoon right there. And you kind of come to find out throughout the book that he is intentionally he's kind of recognized her routine, and he's intentionally inserting himself because he is very, very, very shy. So in her head, they have this kind of like rivalry. In his head, it's his attempt to flirt. So it's very, very grade school. But they find out that their grandparents are actually engaged.
Wow.
They meet each other at the engagement dinner, and they're just like, okay. And then her grandmother, who is trying to be the matchmaker of the century, keeps putting them together for wedding, errands. So like picking flowers, and cake tasting, and all of that. So through the course, they become close and kind of recognize that there were some misunderstandings, and then it's just it's another wonderful story of kind of realizing your own power for Crystal. And Scott is just one of those patient heroes that we just love to read about, because he's just he's gonna wait there while she figures it out, and it's wonderful and it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I think you've actually featured on book ends before. I love it. I could not talk about it. So Well Met is by Jen DeLuca, and this is a story of Emily, who has, I think, left her job to go help her sister, who has broken her leg and is kind of homebound. Probably should be bedbound, but she's a little stubborn. And Emily kind of ends up inadvertently being the chaperone for her niece at the town's Renaissance fair, because all of the teenagers need kind of an adult chaperone to sign on. So Emily kind of signs on to this, not realizing that the town takes this very seriously. And in particular, the kind of head honcho of the Renaissance fair, Simon, is very particular about how things are represented and the accents and the characters that are used during the fair. So they kind of butt heads a lot, because Emily is just like, this is just kind of a gimmick, and Simon is like, what Emily doesn't recognize is that this is Simon's family legacy, that his older brother started this before he passed away. And so it's kind of them butting heads and then working together and realizing that the other one's not that bad after all. And it's just very sweet, and it's very fun because it takes place at a Renaissance fair. Those are just so much fun.
Yes.
So that one's great. It's one of my favorite. There are actually 4 books in this series now, and I know we have at least the first 3 here at the library, so highly recommend that. My next one is Bet on It by Jody Slaughter. Making sure that I said her name right. And this one was really interesting to me. It's another one that's kind of less romantic. And our heroine is, I think it's Asia Owens, who suffers from kind of, I wouldn't say like agoraphobia, but like she's very shy, she's very anxious, and the first time she meets the hero of the book, she's having a panic attack in the frozen food section of the grocery store. So she's kind of embarrassed, but he's gone through that himself, and so he's just very patient, and he's like, I saw you, and then I circled around to make sure you're okay. Is there anything I can do? And so he just kind of waits with her until she kind of can get to the point where she can leave. And then he is in town. His name is Walker. Mm-hmm. He is in town to take care of his grandmother, who has broken both of her arms, and very much needs help around the house and everything. So he has come back to the town that he swore he never would, because, you know, he came from, his parents should not have been parents. And so he was also raised by his grandmother. Yeah. And so we kind of find out as the story goes that he is still suffering from kind of the anxiety of being abandoned and kind of all of that kind of family childhood trauma. But that also makes him really able to kind of connect with Asia and help her kind of grow and become comfortable in this town. So they really start bonding when he goes to bingo with his grandmother and finds out that Asia is a regular at bingo and enjoys it. And that's like her one outing aside from going to the grocery store, is going to bingo. And so they kind of make a little side bet when they realize that they're attracted to each other, that she will help him get better at bingo and get faster. And every time he wins a game, they will go on a date or, you know, have an interaction. And so that it gets a little steamy. But it's you know, it's just really fun and it's really sweet. But one thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that Jody Slaughter is actually a Kentucky author. She lives in Lexington.
Oh, cool.
So it's really fun to kind of see that and finish the book and then read her bio and be like, oh, well, that's fun. So really fun, just kind of a different approach to kind of dealing with anxiety in relationships. So
that's a good topic.
Yeah, I really liked it. And then my last book is The Steamiest. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang focuses on Stella, who is on the spectrum, and she is being pressured by her parents to get married and have babies in a very sweet way. They're not being overbearing, they're just letting her know that they are ready for grandbabies. So she goes on a date and it's an epic disaster, and so she decides that what she needs is someone to teach her how to be better at the physical side of relationships, because she is very uncomfortable with being touched suddenly and not knowing kind of what's happening and everything like that. So she's very much has a routine of, you know, a very set routine of getting ready for everything and all of that. So the whole intimacy is very uncomfortable for her. So that is where our hero Michael enters the story. He is an escort that she hires to teach her how to be better at intimate moments.
Do you need the band?
I might need the band. And so it's very much a kind of, once he realizes what it is that she's asking, he gets a little, he's a little shocked. He actually has a rule that he doesn't engage with a client more than once, because he's had experiences in the past where they get too attached. And so he ends up breaking his own rule because he is just gutted by the idea of someone taking advantage of her, one of his fellow escorts, you know, coming in and teaching her these things, and he's just like, no. It's very much kind of a she's mine moment. So if you're into the alpha hero, he's a great one, but he's also very sweet. He is another hero who is the man of his house. You know, his father left when he was, I guess it wasn't, he was out of college, but he has younger sisters who are, you know, still in high school and about to go into college, and so he's kind of the man of the house. His mother has been very sick, which is actually, we learned why he started escorting, because he needed the money. And so you learn that he's very much someone who wants to take care of people, and so he brings Stella into that fold, and is, you know, they just kind of help each other grow, and it's fantastic and very sweet. And I reread The Kiss Quotient at least once a year.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
I love it so much. So yeah, those are my books.
I know, and we have these and so many more romances.
So many more.
Yeah, so many more. So if you want to check any of these romances out, just visit us at the Scott County Public Library, and we'll see you next time on Bookends.